Are you tired of lugging around heavy, bulky tree stands, whether you're using a climber or a hang-on, and would prefer to hunt lighter and more mobile? If you said yes, then you need to check out the Tethered Mantis Saddle and Predator platform. For me, this setup has done a couple things for me over the past year and a half. I've definitely been more mobile, lighter, and when you get into those situations where maybe the wind switches on you or whatever, and in years past you didn't want to pull all your gear, just because you didn't want to move it, didn't want to make additional noise and things of that nature. This kind of solved all those problems for me, and I'm able to kind of tear down quickly, make a move if I need to make a move, and get set up without losing a whole lot of hunting time. The other thing I do a lot more of with this is actually I'll still hunt my way through, or just kind of go into an area where I'd like to check out, scout with all my stuff on my back. It's super light, so I don't really even notice it, and I hunt to where I'm going, or I still hunt through to where I'm ultimately going to set up, which is a great benefit, has been a great benefit to me so far this year. If you're interested in all these things, then you need to head over to tetherednation.com, check out all their information related to saddle hunting, and release your inner tree ninja. First thing I do in the morning before a hunt is, of course, I have to have my morning coffee, and I'm sure most of you out there probably feel the same. Make sure you're filling your mug with Skull Brew coffee, as it is the only coffee company that is both 2% for conservation certified and, of course, donates 10% of their profits to conservation organizations who are helping us to secure the future of our wild places. So head to skullbrewcoffee.com and choose between 3 kilo roasts of coffee, and know that you are supporting conservation with every sip. All right, if you listen to this podcast for any length of time, you guys know that I am good friends with all the guys over at Exodus. And I want to give you a quick heads up that you should be checking out some of their content if you haven't already. They have a podcast out called Trail Cam Radio, and they release new episodes every Tuesday. So the day before you listen to this one, you could be listening to that one as well. They've done some deep dives with some great guests. You'll recognize some of these names as Jeff Sturgis, Dan Enfalt, and the Hunting Public. And they also jump into and talk to some less-known hunters who consistently are getting it done many times on public land. If you prefer to watch podcasts, if you're looking for some video content, they have a YouTube channel as well, and that is packed, of course, with great videos and interviews. One of the most popular ones they did is a candid interview with John Eberhardt, and if you know anything about John, you always get the straight dope from him. And for specifically my PA listeners, they just recently posted a public land big woods interview with Steve Shirk, which I consumed, and it is pretty awesome. This dude's killing hammers and getting on giant deer in Pennsylvania, so it's absolutely a must listen. So if you're looking for more whitetail content, especially here during the course of the season, you just can't get enough. Be sure to head over to their podcast, Trail Cam Radio, and their YouTube channel, Exodus Trail Cameras, and drop them a subscription or review, and let them know that Truth from the Stand sent you. If you're also in the market for a trail camera, over the last 4 years, of course, Exodus has consistently showed they build quality trail cameras that flat out just work. Of course, the best trail camera warranty, period. Every single camera is backed by a 5-year warranty and even comes with a theft and damage coverage. That's right, 5 years, literally half a decade, you'll be covered by the Exodus 5-year warranty. But more than likely, you won't need it because the cameras are built to last. Welcome to the Truth from the Stand Deer Hunting Podcast, brought to you by Skull Brew Coffee Company. I'm your host, Clint Campbell, and you're listening to episode number 150, bringing you the Iowa Rut Log Day 7 through 9. And we're also giving away a bourbon barrel turkey call, so stay tuned. All right, folks, welcome back to another episode of the Truth from the Stand Deer Hunting Podcast. And John is currently typing Taylor notes to make sure he doesn't curse too much.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. We got your back. So I'm still in Iowa. I'm here with John, Mr. Johnny Utah Mulligan, getting after some whitetails. And we have our good buddy, Taylor Early, with us, man. What's going on, Taylor?
Just living the dream out here with John.
Living the dream, yeah. How's John in the stand? Is he all right? Is he all right to live within the stand?
He's a good stand mate for sure.
Yeah. I only got to spend one blind day with, or a morning rather.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was good.
Yeah.
I felt like we bonded.
Yeah.
Got closer.
You got closer.
Yeah.
A little quiet time in the blind.
Yeah. My stomach was grumbling.
It was.
Yeah, it was bad. It got real bad later.
Did it really?
Yeah.
Yeah. Got a little dangerous.
Yeah, I was feeling dangerous that day.
Come home with one less sock or one less shirt sleeve.
If it's you, it's one less shirt sleeve. If it's me, I just do it along the freeway.
Yeah.
But what we're doing here today is we're talking through days 7 through 10 essentially. So the last podcast we put out, it was me really recapping the day that I missed that good deer, and we won't rehash that necessarily. I don't know that my psyche can take it. I finally, I think, turned the corner today and got back like on the up and up again.
Yeah.
So I think we'll just go from day 7 forward. I think that's, I'll give my recap really quick and we can just kind of go from there because mine will be really quick. Basically, since the day that I missed, I was in a bit of a funk, was going down to the honey hole in Shimmick, did some all day sits. Be lying if I said that it wasn't eating me up. Like I was just sitting there all day thinking about like revisualizing the miss over and over again. Saw one 10-point. He was a young deer. I mean, he's got, if he's around in 2 more years, he's going to be a hammer. He's one of those deer. You look at him, he's probably all but 2.5 and just tons of bone, tight, spindly, but just all kinds of tines already.
Yeah.
I saw him, and then I saw another little 8-point. That again, young deer, but is probably going to be a pretty good deer in the future. And that was really it. And then today I did some freestyling, found some good sign, and set up on that, and then saw another young deer. So it's like I'm still seeing deer, but I'm not seeing the caliber that I was seeing essentially the first couple days when I got here, where it's like I was seeing that borderline shooter that. Early in the trip, it maybe wasn't. Right.
Yeah.
And later in the trip now, it's like I'd be like, oh, that deer walks by tomorrow. It's like
tomorrow morning.
Yeah, he's gonna get it. And that's really been the story for me. I hung a cell camera today, trying to see what's going on in that spot that I missed that deer, because the thing that kind of has blown me away, man, is that all the scrapes and stuff that I found as I was scouting are all still open. And whenever I would go out and hunt Ohio with Chad, usually like we'd find scrapes early. Right. And then they would usually all go cold, and then they would open up and we'd be gone by that point. Because it'd be like next week.
The 15th or.
Yeah. But what I'm like crazy is that they're all still open and being tended. Because I was like, are these seriously being tended? So I hung a cell camera, and I was just telling you before we started recording that I actually had does tonight hit that scrape that I went and put the cell cam on, They came to it at like last light, like 450 and then like 510 or whatever. And they're hitting it. No bucks around them. And I think that's the thing that's blowing me away is like I've seen a couple does, had does on camera, just not seeing bucks with them, which is an oddity. I know you saw some does today too and no bucks, but you had chase like the day before or 2 days before.
Yesterday, 2 days before and a little bit yesterday. It's been a unique deal. And I know every year there's a million memes where people are like, well, it's a trickle rut or the rut just hasn't kicked in yet. And I'm a firm believer that, the rut, every farm is a little different, and it might be a 12-hour or 24-hour difference, but I think it's pretty close to that. For peak activity, I'm a firm believer also that the moon phase has really played a factor.
We had a full moon the other night too.
Yeah. Last night, tonight was close to. I think tonight was technically the full, and last night was pretty much full.
Right, and know this only because I was walking out and didn't need a headlamp.
Exactly,
anything. I was just walking out. Yeah, using the moonlight.
And what we've noticed in our open field hunting that we've been doing is you do get you get to hunt a little bit longer on those field edges, an extra 5, 10, maybe even 20 minutes. But it was the last hour and a half of light. Then it was the last hour. Then it was the last 45 minutes. And then last night, everything happened in 37 minutes. And then it was too dark to see anything and, or shoot. And that was in. So, I think that a lot of does have been bred, and even though they have their fawns with them, which it typically, it seems like you don't see the fawns in the rut. And I don't know if it's because mom's getting run all over the place.
Right.
Maybe this case, a couple of these does that we've seen, the fawns have linked back up.
Right.
I talked to Don Higgins last night and was kind of telling him what I'm seeing. And hey, anytime Don will answer the phone and
that's right,
and sprinkle a little, whitetail magic love at you, I'm all ears.
What do you have to say?
And that's what he said. He kind of confirmed that. He said, yeah, those does will get bred and they'll get run off from their does if they haven't kind of booted them off, so to speak, like the button bucks. They haven't booted them off, but if they've got their fawns with them, then they'll run off, get bred, and then they'll link back up.
Right.
And they'll be with them all the way, all the way until they, January, February, March.
Right.
So I'm like, oh, okay, cool. But like I said, the rut's going to happen, whether it's happening in the corn or it's happening in the timber.
That's the thing down there in this what I just refer to as the honey hole.
Mm-hmm.
So we know what we're talking about. It's like, is that standing corn? It's just like, I feel like it's effing me.
Yeah.
Down there.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
it's right there. Well, and also, Don was pointing out last night something that I'd heard before and kind of seen before, but it was nice having, confirmation from, one of the godfathers,
Right.
But you can literally be 400 yards. Like, you can be in the parking lot of the World Series.
Right.
You're there, you're close, but you're not seeing the game.
Right.
But just 400 yards is where all the action could be.
Right.
It's kind of hit or miss.
And last year you were all up in the chips.
I was
last
at
year.
the 50-yard line.
Yeah.
Like, of the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
It was all happening right there. It was crazy.
Because, I definitely saw, and we talked about this, or I talked about it on an earlier podcast, but I think it was the third or the fourth that I saw that buck running that doe, and he was running her hard too. So he wasn't, he wasn't being friendly about it. Like, oh, you might be a little warm. Let me just kind of take my time. Like, he was, no, I'm about to try to get it.
Yeah.
Right. Taylor, you like that?
He was gonna just take it.
Yeah. Doesn't say anything during the podcast,
but laugh for that.
But laugh for that. Love it.
I was getting some video.
Nice.
I'll chit chat now.
Yeah, I know it's what I'm hoping, at least for my sake, since I got about a week left, what I'm hoping is that the ones have been bred. The other ones won't cycle in now for, whatever it is. It'll be the very beginning of December-ish, end of this month, beginning of December. But what I'm hoping is that the bucks start cruising, start hitting scrapes again, start kind of going through that cycle, that way I'm able to kind of hunt sign as opposed to find and hunt doe bedding necessarily, because there's just, the one thing I learned about Shimmick so far is that there is doe bedding everywhere.
Oh yeah. It's all bedding.
Yeah. It's like they could be anywhere or nowhere at the same time. You just have no clue, because I didn't know whether or not there were any does around me where I missed that deer or not. And that's where I hung that cell camera. And of course, a couple of does popped out. So I'm like, oh, no shit. There you go. A couple of does live here,
Sure.
Because they were just, they popped out right at last light. Pretty sure one busted me last night, getting out of the tree, But what do you think, Taylor? I know you've been manning the camera for John.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. We've been seeing bucks. Like you said, we haven't been on the 50-yard line this year. So we've been watching from afar. Our few sits where we have tried to make an effort at getting close, we just haven't seen them. Not sure if it's because we have done something wrong or, it was just happening 400 yards away that night or that morning. It's been interesting, not nearly as intense as I expected, but we're seeing shooter bucks on average once a day. So
yeah,
you can't ask for any more than that.
Well, and it's been interesting that, Taylor's been here, him coming from northern Indiana, his particular place that he has his farm, him and his dad hunt on, and they might see 20, 30, 40, 60 deer in a sit. And it's that whole like quality versus quantity and kind of thing. And he can be a great testament that Iowa, there's not 180-inch deer behind every tree. There are big deer, but we're seeing them like once every 48 hours. We, see a big buck, cruising through on a field edge or something 400 yards away or
right.
And we're seeing more bucks than does, which is cool.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing I think that blew me away. And I was saying it to John whenever after the first couple of days I was here, I was like, I have yet to see a doe. I was like, I've seen all bucks on every set. I'm not complaining.
Sure.
I was like, but it's just, it's odd for me, I almost feel like hunting does would be harder than killing, not killing a good buck or a big buck,
Yeah.
right? That's a challenge, right? But like if I wanted to just kill a buck, right? Given that I wouldn't miss,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
Well, that's true.
Yeah.
We've had more shot opportunities at bucks than does.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And like 3 nights ago, we were in one of my favorite tree stands that a mutual friend of all of ours that Billy and I hunted in last year, and I killed a buck out of, and it was the stand that was just on fire. You know, it didn't matter. Even if they were 400 yards away, I could call them right to me to 20 yards. And so I thought, well, this is going to be my rut spot. This is where I'm going to, start this year. And I've kind of been married to it, a little too married to it. And then 3 nights ago we were hunting, and I kind of told myself, I said, look, if it's a slow sit, then it's time to jump ship.
Right.
We're going to move. And passed a 4-year-old tank of a buck, sent you the picture of it, just a tank.
Good looking deer.
And looking back on it, I wish I wasn't so greedy with my tag, but I probably should have shot that deer, because he would have to make a ginormous jump from 4 to 5 to really be a special deer, a really, special deer. And I know people might listen and say, he just passed 145, 150 inch, 4-year-old. And
right.
I have bigger deer on that property that I've got pictures of, and I've got, different deer that I'm targeting this year. So I didn't want to shoot him, but he was in bow range.
Right? Oh yeah. And the crazy part was I was sitting there and I actually expected he was going to shoot it, because from Indiana, that's a
Sure.
stud deer. So, I mean, perfect film. I mean, we had him lip curling, we had him bumping does,
That
nose down.
That lip curl picture is rad, man.
Yeah.
Oh, and the video's even better. And then he comes by broadside. I got 45 seconds of him broadside.
Yeah.
And when he went across, I looked over and I was like, was he, I think I asked, was he close enough to you? And you were like, yeah, I think he was 40 yards. And I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
we're gonna let him walk.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest. I mean, he got me excited. The lip curling and him going and scent checking each of those does, and it was funny because he was super excited. Like, imagine you got a new toy at Christmas and it's across the room, so you sprint over to it, and then if you read the name tag and it says like to David, but it's like not yours.
You're like, ah.
Yeah, I mean, he literally his whole body posture just changed, and he was like, he just kind of like, just meanders across the field like,
right.
Oh shucks, like he had his hopes up and they weren't hot, and
right.
So
it's kind of like when your wife says, I got a headache.
I got a headache. Like you're tuned up, and she's like, got a headache.
Right.
Like, really?
Had a couple beers, ready to go.
Or she's like winks at you, like smiles, and you're like, oh.
Then she would just tell me thanks for taking the garbage out.
Yeah, right. I'm like, what's up with these blurred lines?
Right. I'm so confused.
Yep.
With these mixed signals.
But it was, it was cool, and even looking back on it, like I said, at the time I was happy with the pass, and it was cool to see it, cool to experience it, and this is much different. This is only the second time Taylor's been filming, for me. So like the first time we knew where the bear, was going to be,
Right.
And that timber was so thick that there's no filming outside of literally the office space that we're in right now. So, it's been cool. I wanted to get him more time tracking these deer and following these deer and that kind of stuff. And that's been cool. And I want this to last longer. You know what I mean? He's probably ready to go back to Indiana, but I'm like, no, dude, I want you to stay here, So
I'm still ready to see that Iowa giant.
Yeah. Yeah. So
I got my experience.
Yeah.
It was fleeting.
Yeah.
But he was stupid. Like, I still remember just the sound he made as his hooves. Let's say it for you.
Jeez.
Yes,
You and these
yeah.
hooves.
his hooves. I don't even know what is a hooves?
His hooves.
It behooves you
Yeah.
to use the word hooves.
Hooves. But yeah, just like them pounding the ground. It was just like the size of the animal. And then the rack, of course. It was just like,
Oh yeah.
good Lord. You know, it was like I had and you told me, you were like, you're going to have at least one like Iowa experience where it's like, that is a giant deer.
Yeah.
You know, and that was it.
Which is 2x4 main beams and white. I mean, look at some of the white.
Yeah.
There's actually there's a lot more darker horns there than what's normal. But, the Iowa deer, it seems like they're super bright white tines, and they're all almost very shiny smooth. Like they've been sanded like with 200 grit sandpaper. You know what I mean?
Right.
They're also giant. Like a yearling buck
Yeah.
is the size of a 3-year-old.
That was the best part. It was, the
big
first
buck.
day.
Oh wait, that's a yearling.
Yeah. The first day, Taylor sees one across the field and he's like, big buck coming. And I'm like, what's his antlers? And he's like, well, I haven't seen antlers yet, but I just saw a body, but it's definitely, I'm like, hey, that's a spike. And he's like, dude, that'd be like a 2 or 3-year-old back home,
Yeah, because the body size is just crazy.
Enormous.
Yeah,
They're
the buck that I missed had what was cool about him, because you and I were actually talking about the day before, because I was like, I'm seeing a lot of white rack antler, bucks running around, and you were like, yeah, it's like an Iowa thing, and whatever. I was like, oh, that's cool. And then like the next day, that buck that I missed was like super dark chocolate brown antlers, which was like really cool.
It was a timber buck.
Yeah, he's living in the timber. He's not hitting any ag anywhere. He's not out in the sunlight anywhere. He's living amongst the
acorns and cedars.
Yeah,
it's neat. What I was saying. I was going to kind of finish that thought. So 3 nights ago we see that buck there, right there at that stand, and it's like, okay, well, screw this. Like every time we're here, we're seeing different bucks. And they're coming from all directions. The does kind of consistently started coming in behind us, which was awesome because they were feeding right into this really crappy hay / alfalfa field. Needs to be replanted, but and they were squatting everywhere, and we're just like, dude, look at all this live fresh
Gold
sign
mine. Yeah.
that they're depositing right here by us. And I thought, man, we got to ride it out. Then we went a full morning, and we sat 3.5 hours. Then we came back and sat like 5 hours. Didn't see anything but like a spike.
right.
And it's like, oh, you got to be kidding me. So last night we go back there and it's like, all right, one more time. And we see a buck that I've got sheds to, that I found sheds 3 miles away, the way the crow flies, straight line. And it's like, oh my gosh, well, we got to ride it out. So we go back there again this morning. And it is one of those spots that, because they do come from every direction, you kind of can hunt it.
Right.
There's only one wind that you just legitimately don't want to hunt. It's not worth it. But other than that, I mean, you can hunt this daggone thing like almost every sit, and you're going to see different stuff. So,
Or a whole lot of nothing.
or a whole lot of nothing. And there's no consistency with the wind. We've seen nothing on 3 different winds, and we've seen awesome stuff on 3 different winds.
Right.
Days that we saw nothing on a southwest, we saw everything on a southwest.
Right.
So it's just like
2 days before.
Yeah, it's been such a high and low because we go so long without seeing something, and then we like, oh, there's a nice buck.
Yep.
And then nothing for a long time.
Yeah. Yeah. It's very, it's been unpredictable. And it's just, that's kind of the way that farm's always kind of been. Which doesn't match well with my OCD.
Right.
Taylor's gotten to see my emotions. Like, if I've got everything in place and this is going to happen, we're going to get in here at this time. We're going to be scent free. We're going to be quiet.
And we forget a harness.
And we
forget
something. And, and it's just like, yeah, I mean, one day Taylor forgot a harness and he's like, dude, and he knows how I am with safety and stuff. So he's like, I got to go back to get my harness. I'm like, hey, we were about only halfway to the property. It only delayed us maybe 20 minutes or something. No big deal. And then
the screw got stuck in the fluid head.
Yeah, we had a screw on the fluid head and the camera arm. So we kind of had a MacGyver it on, and it was precariously holding on by like one thread, you know. So you're thinking, geez, like, don't drop a camera.
Didn't tell John, but it did fall off once, and I caught it.
Nice. So
2 batteries that died within
good.
5 minutes.
Hey, you keep those things to yourself.
Yeah.
That was a good move. And then like we wanted to go in yesterday morning.
Yeah,
yesterday morning. I'm like, hey, like don't let me forget, the pole saw. And I'm thinking I'll remember, but I'm also wanting him to remember as well in case I forget. And I forgot. And then he remembered, like, literally
at the base of the tree.
At the base of the tree.
Yeah.
He's like, oh yeah, we forgot the pole saw. And I'm like, oh crap.
And John goes, "I'll just check this trail camera while you go back and get it."
Yeah,
well,
like,
it's a 500-yard walk.
Yeah,
there
I was
and
like,
back.
do you
And
mind
then
going
500
back?
yards back.
So I've got,
Nice.
Mrs. Dopey, and I'm doing a rag or drag, and I'm hitting a scrape, and I'm checking a camera, and I'm like, I wanted to do that kind of stuff. So I'm like, hey, can you run back there and grab that thing? So we ended up getting the pole saw stuck in a tree. It was like one thing after another. And I told Taylor, I'm like, I've literally had a pole saw get stuck in a tree twice in my life. Twice.
And he had a landscaping business.
Yeah. And Wicked Tree Gear in my landscape business. I've cut a branch or two. You
Right.
know? It's just one of those freak things, the way that the branch rolled, it pinched the blade. And it's like, you got to be kidding me. So we're drenched in sweat. And I'm just,
We're pissed.
you know what I mean? Yeah. So I'm thinking, I stink. We're in the tree an hour later than I wanted to be.
And we were threading the needle with that wind, too.
Oh,
that
yeah.
day.
And we were on a sketchy wind situation. And it's like put the ozonics on boost mode. And I mean, just, I don't know.
And then we saw nothing.
Yeah.
So,
And then we
like,
see nothing. So it's just like,
Did all that.
yeah.
And there's
it's
always the
squad
what if in your mind. Like, did we alter what was going to happen?
right.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah. And
Even
those are
today,
things you'll never
cutting
know.
those branches and trying to hang that stand that ended up being,
Yep.
yeah.
So we decide, okay, it's time to get in the game. We got to get closer, right? We've been seeing all these bucks come out. And again, I tell myself this, don't fall into the trap. Just because you saw a buck do something in the rut, don't assume he's going to do that tomorrow. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Because he could be 4 or 5 miles away by the end of the night. But because we are seeing so many different bucks come from the same general vicinity, we're thinking we've got to get in closer. And the reason why I've never gotten in closer, and Taylor got to see today,
Yep.
and he's like, well, I think there's some trees over there. And I'm like, I mean, yeah, there might be, And I'm thinking, all right, let's give it a shot. So we went in today to hang a set, and it's like, oh, we got this tree, but
We must have stood there for 30 minutes trying to pick a tree.
yeah.
And they all sucked.
Yeah,
Like,
I
nothing
mean,
had a good.
You would need to spend 3 hours with a steel chainsaw. And
Sounds
you know
like
what I
you
mean?
just got yourself a task for the off seation.
Oh yeah. I mean,
we talked about
the
that, yeah.
checklist is like, it's like, holy crap, man. I've got 2 weeks of tree stand stuff, to work on this year. But, that was a pain, and you're trying not to sweat. And then plus, then at one point, Taylor's like, dude, it's like 3:15. And I'm like, oh my God, I cannot believe we're not like settled already. Like,
Right.
Why did I check the time though? Because we forgot the shoulder and the
oh yeah.
base.
Yeah. Then we went in and we forgot a camera arm base
Right.
because we left the other one in the tree because we'll probably go back to that tree,
Right.
And I had another one in the truck, so it's like I got another one in the truck. We'll bring that, and we legitimately remembered everything. There was a lot of extra things that we had to do to bring out there to go do that.
I blame Frank for stopping us for like an hour to talk.
It derailed us.
It did.
Yeah. But since Taylor's the camera guy, camera arm base was kind of.
Oh,
Kind of
jeez.
his fault.
Oh, get out of here.
Just saying.
I didn't forget my bow.
Right.
And I
Nice.
bumped 2 does coming back, which was the worst. That was the deer we
Yeah.
would have seen tonight and possibly brought the buck out. So
Very
all these
well.
little things keep happening, and you sit there in your mind and you just get overwhelmed with if we didn't make that little mistake, what would have happened?
Yep.
And we really haven't had a solid full day of not having one mistake.
Right. There's just been like serious, unlucky, just weird crap,
I was thinking that today because I've contemplated taking tomorrow morning off. Only because I felt like I was thinking of it today as I was scouting and hanging my saddle in the tree that I'm planning to hunt tomorrow morning, where I was like, I feel like I'm starting to get a little bit sloppy because
It happens.
because I've been grinding now for tomorrow will be day 10 straight of hunting all day. You know what I mean?
That's hard.
I've done many of those I've done all day sits, but I've definitely been in the woods by 5:30.
Yep.
And maybe I'll get down and scout or whatever and then find a setup for like the evening or whatever, or I'll know where I'm going to go for the evening to make a move. But it's like I'm hunting all day,
Yeah.
And it's like I'm into day number 10 and I can feel myself going, I don't give a shit about that.
Yeah.
Like I don't
No,
care.
it
You know what I
happens.
mean? It's like
Yep. No, it does.
We've been getting sloppy too.
Yeah, we've been getting sloppy, and plus, I've been at it every day now since the first,
Yeah.
as well, And there was one day that I took off. I know there was one day you hunted, and I just had to get some office work done.
Yep.
But for the most part, I've been grinding it out like that as well. And morning and night, and then you get the time change.
Yeah.
I still don't go to bed an hour earlier. You know what I mean?
Right.
I'm
That's
still,
the one thing I've been good about. It's like I've gone to bed literally like passed out. I also don't have much choice. It's like I don't have internet at my cabin. I don't have
there's nothing else to
like
do.
so once I eat, it's like it's either like stare at the wall or go to bed. So it's like
Clint's breaking out solitaire, playing a deck of cards.
Right.
Yeah. It's like so I'm in bed by like 8:30, like pretty much every night 8:30, like 9:00. So I'm waking up even before my alarm.
Yeah.
I woke up at 1:30 this morning to gunshots, nonetheless. It was weird.
We get a few road hunters by my property too.
Hey, we've heard at least one every morning.
Yeah.
Really. There was like it didn't sound like deer gunshot though. It was like almost like handguns, like pop 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 pop. And then
Duck hunting,
pop pop
maybe?
pop pop. Like it was at 1:30 a.m.
Oh.
Like
Yeah, that's people leaving the Legion. The American Legion little watering hole is only about a mile,
it's
mile and
pretty
a half
close.
from.
Yeah, I got invited down there the other day to go have some drinks at the Legion, and then I was like,
I'd steer clear.
yeah, I was like, this might not be my kind of crowd.
No,
I'm not a local. They'll recognize that right away.
When you say hooves,
hooves. No,
Hey, you guys ever hear those hooves hit the ground like that before? They're like, boy, you ain't from around here, are you?
that's funny, man. Yeah, no, it's. I don't know. It's kind of crazy. Today was a really, really slow day. I have seen a little bit on Facebook, some people starting to use the term lockdown.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
But the thing is like this is just an outsider's view, right? Is like that makes sense to me in places like Pennsylvania where like the numbers are so askew, where it's like there's so many more does than there are bucks. You know what I mean? Like, and maybe not 100%, but I mean, you go anywhere and look at a field any night or whatever, and you will find like 3-1, easy, 4-1.
Yeah.
same here in
Easy,
Indiana.
you know?
Yeah.
Here, though, it's like I find lockdown, like I think maybe your bigger bucks, like your top end bucks, could be locked down, but I think the bucks that I'm willing to shoot still, like the 140, 130 range,
Right.
like I can't believe that all of them have found a doe at this point, because I'm still seeing bucks. Like today, I saw, a buck just wandering. Yesterday, I saw 2 bucks. Wandering, you know what I mean, like sniffing around, looking
buck
for
last
love.
night didn't have a doe with him.
No.
The
The only thing good about that is where we're hunting, we got the does coming out in those beans, so we're just waiting for the right doe to walk out with a buck that's locked down with her.
Yeah.
Sure.
And she might bring him right by.
Yeah. Yep.
So yeah, I mean, today was one of those days where I finally I felt like I got my swag back a little bit. Like I had to get out, do a little freestyling, find some sign, found monster sign, and
That rub was crazy.
Yeah.
and it got me excited, to where I was like, okay, all right, I didn't forget how to do this. You know what I mean? Because you miss one, and for me, that was the biggest deer I'd ever personally seen on the hoof. That's just for you guys.
I love it.
And to have a shot and to miss, like it was, and I'm in Iowa. You only get to do this once every 4 to 5 years.
Yep.
It's like it was a tough pill to swallow. Definitely, knocked me back a few paces to where I was like, this felt like crap, And then today was like the first day of like getting back out scouting, and I was like, all right, I didn't forget how to do this. Like you made a bad shot,
Sure.
and your bow was off after I checked it.
Yeah.
Which I should have done prior. I did do prior to that, but I should be doing it like every other day, and especially some of the brush I was kind of beating through, and I was my dial had moved on my sight just a little bit, which didn't help me on that shot either.
Sure.
So, not that that's any kind of consolation prize, but
Whatever you got to tell yourself.
right.
No, I mean that's a legitimate thing. I mean, I've shot mine. My sight got a little loose. Actually, you could physically move it a little bit side to side. It had its center point, and it was fine. We tightened it down, but just banging it around and whatnot. Stuff gets off, and I mean it's important to do.
Yeah, it is. I'm usually pretty diligent about doing it, and I did it like the second day that I was here.
Yeah,
or
yeah. I remember you were shooting.
Yeah, right after I got here, I did it because from the truck ride, right? I always like to shoot as soon as I get it out of the truck to make sure everything's okay, and it was fine. And then like 2 days later, I shot it, but then I hadn't shot it until I missed. And then I was hunting the next day, and I was sitting in the tree, and I was like, it was just killing me. It was like 4. It was like 4 o'clock, getting ready to hit prime time, and I was like, I got to go shoot my bow while I still have daylight. I was like, I can't take not knowing whether or not it's off or not.
Yep.
And, of course it was 3 inches low,
Yeah.
and it wasn't because my bow was off. It was because my dial had gotten knocked around and it had moved back.
Yeah.
And so instead of shooting at 25 yards, my 25-yard pin, it was actually set at about 23.
Yeah.
And I was holding low on the deer to begin with. It's
well, the buck I missed this year, I held low on it as well, and I actually stopped it, so I fully expected the deer to do what they can do, 12, 24-inch drop, whatever.
Right.
So I just held right on the belly line,
Yep.
and it went right under the belly.
Right.
And probably the biggest buck I've shot at with my bow.
Yep.
But
Yep. It happens.
yeah.
So what's the plan for the next couple of days, man?
The bottom is going to fall out. I mean, tonight,
Oh, it's just going to be cold.
yeah, it's going to be really, really cold. I mean, when we got out tonight, I guess it was like 39 and 30, 37, something like that. And then tomorrow it's supposed to be like 26 in the morning and snowing. There's like 80, 90% chance of snow. I haven't looked to see what kind of accumulation they're calling for, but
Yeah, it's going to be cold.
And the next
Yeah.
day, it's dropping even more. It's dropping until Tuesday morning, I think.
yeah, it goes to like 10.
Yeah, going to be balmy.
Yes. Yes.
And the kicker is, I think I
I
saw.
might wear gloves Tuesday.
I wear a hat.
Maybe. Yeah.
The kicker I saw. I think there's 20-mile-per-hour winds too.
Ooh.
Yeah. Ooh. Yeah. Which is why, like tonight, I was looking for a tree to get into, and I was like, I like to personally like climb and hunt out of small trees because I like to be able to shoot out of my saddle. I like to be able to get to my left all the way to where I can shoot back behind the tree at my 1 o'clock from my strong side. And I only have to take very few shots from my weak side. So I like small trees, but I was looking at the weather going like, all right, what tree am I going to get into? And I was like, ooh, 20-mile-per-hour winds. It's like
The biggest tree I could
that
find.
big like triple branch with like all the funky, shit all over it. I was
Yeah.
like, that's like as big around as like a house. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna climb that one tomorrow. So that's all my stuff's actually in that tree. And I specifically picked it. I had some good cover and stuff like that, but mainly because it's also in the right spot, but because it's large and I'm not going to get the sway back and forth and be buffeted around in the tree.
Yeah. We actually, I have an old blind that I've had for 4 years or so, like an old hay bale blind.
Looks like you've had it for like 12.
Yeah. Well, it's the first year the cover came off and took care of it. And then it went a year in a winter,
Right.
being outside, and the mice and the birds stole all the straw.
Right.
So it's just kind of a black bale blind.
For their homes.
Yeah. So, I mean, who am I to, be mad that they needed to stay warm?
Right. Yeah.
We actually have it moved into a spot that's pretty close. We're just south of where these deer are coming out, and we've got a lot of north winds obviously coming up the next couple of days. I do like sitting in like a big comfortable box blind late season, inclement weather, get a lot of snow and that kind of stuff. I mean, I do kind of like that. I don't like sitting on the ground in any way. So an elevated blind's one thing.
Yeah.
Blind on the ground, I'm not a fan of. Just can't see anything. And it's why I like hunting out of tree stands more. So we're gonna play it by ear, but right now I'm leaning towards that blind in the morning. Mm-hmm. That I think that might be our best option to get in their program, as old Chancey Walters would say. So I think that's the game plan. We have sat the blind twice, and we didn't see a buck.
4-pointer.
Yeah, he doesn't count in Iowa.
He doesn't count.
Now that blind, like
He was
literally,
gender confused.
it's 3 feet short from being able to have a grate so where you can see
Correct.
everything.
Yeah. If it was slightly elevated, would be better. And when we got out, I was looking at all those trees around us. And I'm like,
Nothing.
this is the biggest thing you've got.
Yeah.
You know, it's literally like 4 inches, and it's got a lean like like
Right.
that. And I'm like, well, this isn't going to work. So it sucks, man. Like I said, the only trees that we could get into in reality, there was like 2 trees without having to cut a whole lot, and you're going to be 30 yards inside the timber.
Mm-hmm.
So you're 31 yards just to the field edge.
Right.
How many deer do you know that rub their antlers against the leaves, you know what I mean, on a field edge? So it seems like they're always 10 yards, inside or whatever. So,
Right.
Nonetheless, I think that's going to be the play. Sit that tomorrow. And then maybe get creative.
Yeah.
I wish I would have made the move a couple of days ago, and then I would have found out a couple of days ago that wasn't an option, and then I'd be already on to plan C or plan D at this point. I was, I've talked about it before. I was on the road so daggone much this summer and early fall. I didn't get to do a lot of the stuff that I wanted to get done this year, and it's kind of a bummer, but it is what it is, and making the most out of it.
Yeah.
But it's a grind, dude. I mean, it's not a sprint. It's a marathon mentally and physically. And like I even said something to Taylor tonight. I said, man, I almost feel like I need to go to the gym one night. After we get done hunting, just go to the gym, pump some iron, get some blood flowing, sweat a little bit, just really disconnect. Because as soon as we get back here to the house, I'm like, okay, let's get our clothes in the dry wash bags and what batteries we need to charge, and let's dump SD cards. And by the time you do that, it's 10 o'clock at night.
Yep.
And you're like,
Now
it's time to eat dinner. And then, time to kind of go to bed. So it feels like all you're doing is just hunting. And,
And there are worse problems to have.
There is.
Sure.
Yeah.
But it doesn't take away from the fact that it is, it's taxing.
Yeah.
It's like, I always, for me, it's 10 days is usually like the right amount of hunting time for me. You know what I mean? It's like, and I'll do 2-week hunts like this one.
Mm-hmm.
But like the 10-day mark is usually when I'm going like, all right, I've almost had enough.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You know what
So
I mean?
here, we'll throw out a hypothetical question for you guys.
And I'm just being honest, like where I'm not one of those guys that says like, hey, I could hunt every day of my life. I just don't have that makeup.
If things are going good,
Oh, that's a different story.
right,
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. You can't wait to get back in.
Yeah.
But you have a couple slow days like I've had the past couple days, and you're kind of going.
Yeah, I'm getting up at 4 a.m. to go see nothing in
And,
the woods.
and now it's cold too.
Yeah,
You're
exactly.
You're out freezing your ass off at 4 a.m. You're like, what the hell am I doing?
Yeah, right. So hypothetically, if you are hunting every day and it's starting to feel like a grind, and then as soon as you see one buck,
Oh,
or you get to come to full draw,
Yep.
immediately it's like, oh, well, this is totally all.
Yeah, I can do this 20 more days.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Until you have like 3 slow days again, and you're like, screw this.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what we've had. It's like literally just as we're about ready to say like this is terrible,
Right.
and we see them.
Yeah. Well, and for me, like, you get into those funks where you're like, ah, man, I really thought this set was going to be a banger, and then it turned out to not be. And you're like, crap. You're kind of dejected. And I get it. Everybody's like, oh man, you're hunting. It's the best thing in the world, right? Okay. Yeah. Yes, it is. That's why we do it, but at the end of the day, like, you can get let down and get disappointed in your decision of where you went or whatever.
Well, you can get let down by things you really like. You know what I mean? It's like that's pretty normal actually, because you care so much about it.
Yeah.
Right. That you want it to be good all the time.
Right.
Right. And then when it's not, it's like if I hated something and it sucked, I'd be like, I knew it sucked.
Right.
You
That's
know
why
what I
I
mean?
hate
It's
it.
like,
Yeah. Well, like, I'm the type of person, I'm not a good vacation person. By like day 4, I can't stand it. I've got to get back to work because I'm starting to think about what all the work I'm missing out on, what I'm not doing that I'm going to have to make up for when I get home. So let's say you go 10 days and you're hunting and you're not seeing anything. And it's like, you know what? Maybe I just need to take a day off.
Yeah.
And just unwind, reconnect, get the juices flowing again, charge the batteries. I can't do that either because the day that I'm skipping, I'm like, what am I missing?
100%.
Did I miss something?
Yep.
If I would have done just one more day, that could have been the day that I needed,
Yeah, I'm the same way because like I've rationalized it in my mind. Like today, I was like, I'm not hunting tomorrow morning for a multitude of reasons. One, it's gonna be cold AF.
Yeah.
I was like, and I'm tired of getting up in the cold and getting dressed in the cold and
Yeah.
just doing that whole thing and that. And I was like, and I just need a day. I need like not even a whole day. I just need like a morning where I can sleep in, get up, have my coffee, have some breakfast, lounge around a little bit, and then go out and hunt the afternoon, And not when I say go out later, I'm talking like get out around like 10 o'clock.
Right.
You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like maybe go do a little bit of scouting or whatever, and then, be where I'm going to be by like noon and get into a tree or whatever, whether it's a previous tree that I've hunted or if it's
Sure.
a new setup or whatever. But I've already like decided, like as we've sat here, where I'm like, I'm going in tomorrow morning.
Yeah.
Like it's like I can't not do it. You know what I mean? It's like
Oh yeah.
I don't have quit in me. You know what I mean? Which is sometimes to my detriment.
Oh,
Where
yeah.
it's like I don't know when to say when I've had enough. But
Yeah, I
Yeah.
turkey hunted 21 days in a row last year, and the season's 21
I
days.
still wouldn't kill shit 21 days in a row turkey hunting. Just
Well,
saying.
On the 18th day, I had missed 2 toms and wounded one that died actually in the water, and I couldn't go out and get it, and it sunk by the time I came back. And so I told myself I wasn't going. My wife looked at me and she's like, "You don't quit," and that's all I needed to hear.
Yeah, it's like nope.
And I was up the next 2 days, and then the last day, my buddy was like, "Come to my place. I got birds." I went and shot the first jake I saw. I
Right.
was just as excited as if I shot a giant tom.
Right. I would be excited too, just because I can't kill turkeys. But I think my plan is going to be hunting tomorrow, even though I thought I was going to take tomorrow off.
No, you're not.
Yeah, I know. I like the setup that I'm in. For me, I'm torn between like some of the sign that I found and or getting back into like the spot that you have that you have a stand pre-hung that I've hunted out of a couple times. Because I know that like deer will come through there, but it's just I checked trail cameras. I haven't seen anything in a couple days that were worthwhile.
Yeah.
None of the good deer even that I had passed. When I say good deer, decent deer for me that I'd be willing
Right.
to shoot. That I passed on like the first 2 or 3 days, like they're not coming back through. You know what I mean? And so I'm like, am I just, for one, am I harming it right by over hunting it, right? Because
Right.
that's one thing that I think that I've done. And two, are they just like locked down? Have they kind of moved on or
Right.
whatever? And I've not seen a lot of does in there either. So it's like all those things kind of pointed to me today to say, you know what, you probably need to get out for a couple of days, go look at some other pieces. Actually went back over to where I missed that deer, and that's where I was scouting today. It was like some other pieces.
Yeah, I'm hoping you
Of
get a
that.
picture from that cell camera.
Yeah. So I scouted some other areas of that particular piece. And that's where I set up this evening. I'm going to set up there tomorrow morning. And I think I'm probably just going to hunt some of that because there's a lot of really good sign around there. There's a lot of cool little terrain features. It's a lot of stuff that I like to hunt too. It's like, it's a lot of hills, big draws.
Have you been doing a lot of calling at all, or just staying silent?
Yeah, I've actually been doing some calling, and I've actually had some success, oddly enough.
Yeah.
Nothing big has come in. I can't take credit for that big deer that I missed coming in to calling. I mean, I rattled prior to him coming in, but he didn't come in all like bristled up looking for a fight or anything like that. So I don't think he heard me, you know. But the first couple of days, it's like I rattled one buck in, and rattled and snort wheezed him into bow
Nice.
range, and then I passed him or whatever. Tomorrow I'd probably shoot that deer, But
Day 14, there's not a spike safe.
yeah. He was
Watch out,
he was a
butt
nice
bucks.
9 point. It's like he was. It was close. He was just super symmetrical, really cool looking. You know what I mean? Tight rack wasn't what I was hoping to come home with from Iowa. So he got a pass, but
Did you come out thinking the same thing I thought, that there's 180-inch deer around every tree?
absolutely
No, just kidding.
no. It's like my goal, and John and I talked about this when we did our goals podcast. But my goal was to try to kill a 140-inch deer.
Yeah.
that was my goal. 140-inch deer / 4.5-year-old.
Yeah,
That was my goal.
which tends to be in Iowa, if it's 4.5, it's 140 or better.
Ish.
So,
Yeah. So that was kind of what I was looking for, and the opportunity materialized. I just shit the bed, on it. So
It happens.
Yeah.
It's well, and that was the thing. Whenever it happened, I thought, man, I wonder how he's going to respond to this and bounce back from this. And then, I'm sitting there thinking, I'm like, dude, you got 14 days.
Yep.
These are some of the best days.
Right.
So make it happen. And that's kind of what I keep telling myself is like, theoretically, from November 7th through the 12th, it's like every day potentially can get better.
Mm-hmm.
Those bucks, they hit their first doe and then they're running ragged looking for the next. And then it
Yep.
seems like they're
It's like they don't stop
they're
looking just
courting.
because does aren't coming in for like another 15 days at the end of the
Right.
month.
Oh,
You know
yeah.
what I mean? Like they don't know that.
No.
Right. They're just like, I need to get another one.
And if
Yeah.
you call at the right time when they're around, they're thinking, wow, there must be a hot doe around and I'm looking
Yeah.
for one.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, I mean, it's me personally, like I haven't had very good luck calling this year.
Mm-hmm.
I can only say maybe one or two bucks have like kind of responded and none of them have sprinted to me.
Right.
They've circled downwind and come back in and that
The
kind
ones
of
I
stuff.
have done the same thing. Now I did rattle that 8-point in the other day. I couldn't tell what he was.
Mhm.
I could see him off about 60 yards moving through the brush. I could just see his tines. And so, I think I've said this on a podcast, but I keep mine on a rope and I bounce them off the ground. So it sounds like their hooves are hitting the ground as they're fighting or whatever. I could see him and I was like, he wasn't going to hear the grunt or whatever. So I was like,
Right.
well, maybe if I bang the antlers together, maybe if I rattle.
Mm-hmm.
So I just dropped him a couple times and he heard him. He stopped, made a beeline,
Yeah.
didn't run, but he turned immediately and started walking toward me. Then once he got close, I was like, oh, okay, let him go or
Yep.
whatever. But it's just so cool to see that happen because that's stuff that, I'm sure some people will get that reaction in Pennsylvania,
Yeah.
at the right farm or
I
the
mean,
right property or
manipulating
whatever.
wildlife is just super cool.
But like I've never had it happen to me personally. You know what I mean? This is the first time I've ever had like rattling actually work for me. It's like I've grunted deer in before and stuff like that, but like rattling and snort wheezing, I snort wheezed one deer in this year in PA at last light. I wasn't trying to snort. Typically in PA, if you snort
you
wheeze,
sneeze?
yeah. Typically in PA, like if you snort wheeze, like my experience has been like they will run the opposite way.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
I've
They're
had
like,
very
they're-
similar
They're
experience.
out of here, right?
Yeah.
And so I set up on this primary scrape area that I found while I was scouting another freestyle hunt. It's kind of been my thing this year. He came in at very last light as I was getting out of my tree. Like I was getting out of my tree. I couldn't shoot anymore, so I started climbing down. And I heard the brush crack and he pops out. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. It was like the one shooter that I had on that piece of public land that I had on camera from the summer. And so I just stood and watched him tend some scrapes and stuff like that. And so when I was like, okay, I'm done, I was like, let me just snort wheeze at him and get him out of here. So I snort wheezed. He stopped and he like looked. He's looking around, and I snort wheezed again. And he didn't like run away. He just like walked quickly into the brush. And I was like, all right, cool. So I started getting down, and it was dark enough now I needed my headlamp. So I flipped my headlamp on, and his eyes are right here. Like he circled around, came up, like and snort wheezed him in. I was like, that was the opposite effect I was hoping to have on you. Because I was hoping to come back and hunt you later. But now I'm pretty much screwed. For
Yeah.
that. But
Now he's
So-
like, I just watched you walk out of a tree stand.
yeah, exactly. So educated him. But I think that's all for the deer hunting. I think there was one other thing we wanted to cover. I think I got my bourbon calls, my Johnny Utah Creative bourbon
I got
calls
my
in the
bourbon
truck.
call.
You got your bourbon call. And I think you wanted to do something with bourbon calls here as well.
Yes, I did. So with the new venture of bourbon barrel calls, there's a lot of different models. There's the branded, there's the moonshiner's call, and then there's personalization that I can do with either an aluminum soundboard or a wood soundboard. This is actually one with the aluminum soundboard. So that's kind of the sound of it there. But kind of got that raspy sound. It's got a crystal top. What I wanted to do is for one of the listeners is to give away a non-branded call. It'll come with the actual charred wood soundboard inside. So whenever you look through the crystal call, It's like you're looking inside of a bourbon barrel, you
Yep.
know, with the charred wood, and it's all authentic, real Kentucky bourbon reclaimed barrels.
Awesome. I think what we'll do is, so you're learning here on the podcast that we're going to give a call away. I think what we'll do is I'll get a photo from you.
Yep.
We'll post it on the Truth from the Stand Instagram page, and
Yeah.
we'll ask the people to like the post of the Bourbon Barrel call picture, and then also like Bourbon Barrel Instagram page as well, or follow rather.
Yes, follow.
So you'll
Yeah.
like that post and you'll follow Bourbon Barrel, and then we'll choose a winner for that in
pick
the
a
next
winner.
like week or so.
Yeah.
Cool. So be on the lookout for that Instagram post, so you guys can try to get your hands on the one of the Bourbon Barrel calls. They're super rad, and as you heard, you can either call turkeys with them, or in my case, probably leave it in the case and look at it.
Yeah, exactly.
Because no turkeys will be killed.
Yeah.
But I think with that, this is the episode 150, the day 7 through 9 Iowa Rut Log, and we'll have a couple more, I'm sure, that'll come out between now and the time I get out of here. But for now, thank you all for listening. I hope your rut is going well. We'll talk soon. All right, folks, that's a wrap for today's show. I'd like to thank all of you for listening. If you haven't yet, please head over to iTunes and leave us a 5-star rating, and be sure to subscribe to the podcast. We'd be super appreciative if you do those two things for us. And before I shut this thing down, I need to give a big shout out to our partners who continue to help us make this podcast possible. Tethered, Exodus Outdoor Gear, Skull Brew Coffee Company, Gumleaf USA Boots, Obsession Bows, Ramcat Broadheads, Trophy Taker Rests, and Dead Downwind. And until next time, we'll see y'all.